We're gonna share the 5 most important things that you should probably know before you get yourself into an enduro race.
If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to the channel. If you are new,
I'm Sid.
And I am Mackie.
And today we're going to finally talk about enduro racing.
First, let's quickly define enduro. The general format for enduro is that you have untimed transfer stages and then timed downhill race runs.
First of all, you should know what kind of enduro race you are getting yourself into, because there is a huge variety in enduro racing, especially in the US. You might be doing a race where you're riding a 30-mile loop that has 3,000 feet of climbing. You might be riding in a bike park and doing 10,000 feet of descending in one day, but going up a chairlift the entire time.
And therefore have no climbing. They range from ridiculously technical with big jumps and drops to basically like a smooth flowing descent, and most of them will have sort of a mixture of that.
Just to kind of show you guys the variance in enduro racing, we will put some Strava links in the description. One will be from the Otter Enduro, which is basically, it took us about 2 hours. It wasn't that much climbing, it wasn't that much descending, it wasn't that technical. And we will also include a Strava link from the Enduro World Series of 2017 in Tasmania, where we were out for 7.5 hours in the pouring rain the entire time. So
and there were no shuttled or chairlift transitions.
Exactly.
You climbed the entire thing. It was a long one. You want to talk to people who've raced the race. You want to look on their website for information, maybe watch videos from people who have done the race.
We've got a lot of those.
But get an idea of what the race is going to be like. And if you're like, I'm new to this, my background is more cross country, I don't want to do something that's super, super technical, then you should choose a race that people say like, yeah, this is a good beginner race. It's not super duper technical.
To add to that, there is no shame in picking a first enduro race that caters to your strengths. So,
not at all.
Yeah,
that's
if
a
you're
good idea,
an
actually.
XC rider, do one of those enduros that's a little bit more XC oriented.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a park rider, do an enduro where you don't have to climb 3,000 feet in one day.
Mm-hmm.
You always have opportunities to try races that are farther out of your comfort zone later, sort of familiarize yourself with the discipline on something that you understand and you're a little bit more comfortable on.
Our second tip is make sure that you understand how the timing for the race that you're doing works. For enduro racing, you are racing against the clock, which basically means that instead of everybody starting together like you would in a cross country and all going at the same time, you start one at a time. Usually it's an interval of 30 seconds or a minute. You are gonna roll up to the start line and they're gonna count you down.
Up, up, up.
And then 30 seconds later, the next person will come. Timing varies a ton across enduro races. It goes from as simple as somebody with a stopwatch writing down start and finish times to as complicated as the Sport Ident system, which is a really nice system. There's a little chip. It looks like a USB flash drive, and you wear it on your wrist on like a little bracelet, and that automatically stores your start and finish time from like the post at the start and the finish.
When you go to registration to check in for an enduro race, you will get a number plate and a timing chip. Sometimes the timing chip is attached to the number plate. Clarify this. Also clarify if you do get one of these Sport Ident chips, they usually go on your right wrist, but depending on where they have the timing beacons, it might be the left. So pay attention.
Or it could even be attached to your bicycle. I have seen
that's
that
true.
as well. Yeah.
Sometimes they have it, you attach it to the bike. So make sure you know where those timing chips are supposed to go, and make sure you don't lose them or mix them up with anyone else.
This is a problem for us.
This is a problem for us because we get the same, they look the same. So we have to be really careful. Otherwise I would win everything and Mackie would not do very well. Another thing to think about with the timing chips, especially the ones that go on your wrist, is that these pick up a time every time you pass a timing beacon. So if you want to go cheer on your friends, after you finish the stage and you walk past that timing beacon, it will completely screw up your time. And it's usually something they can fix, but it's a pain in the butt. So if you're gonna walk back up the course at all, take that off, leave it on your bike, and just be aware of that. If someone catches you from behind, as the person in front, it is your responsibility to get out of the way as quickly as possible because they've just gained 30 seconds to a minute on you.
They're going a lot faster than you are.
They're probably going to yell, "Rider!
Rider! 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 Rider!" As the person getting past, you also want to acknowledge that you heard them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they'll probably keep yelling thinking that you didn't hear them. So if you're saying like, "I heard you, I'm looking for a spot," then they're like, "Oh, okay, I don't need to keep yelling. I'm just gonna like wait to get around them."
It is acceptable to yell rider, trail, pista if you're in a Spanish speaking country. Don't be a jerk. It's really just a bike race. And also the person in front of you might be kind of scared about whatever you're riding through. So be considerate of that. It's okay to wait until you find somewhere that is safe. If you just immediately bail or like grab a fistful of brake because you're scared that someone's behind you, decent chance you'll make that slower for everyone. So do look for a good spot, but do be respectful of the fact that they have already cut a lot of time on you. The third thing you should know, you have to ride the same bike for all stages and all days of the race. So even if one day is on your local XC trails and next day is in the local downhill park, you have to ride the same bike.
Some races make a really big deal about it, like the Enduro World Series, for example. When they do, they will usually provide stickers that you have to put on your bike to show that those are the original parts that you started the race with.
Frame, your rear triangle, both wheels, and your fork.
The other part of this is you want to make sure that you're riding a bicycle that can survive the entire race. So, you know, maybe you're like, okay, well, I know this stage is more pedally and there's a little bit of climbing in it, so I want a lighter setup. But then you know that the next stage is super rocky and super fast. Set up your bike for that super rocky, fast stage and just accept that it's going to be a little bit of a penalty on the easier stage. If you set it up for the easier stage and then you smash a wheel on the harder stage, you're going to lose way more time by having a broken wheel than you did by not being able to pedal quite as easily. Tip number 4, make sure to pre-ride. Pre-riding is riding the courses that you will be racing before you race them.
This gives you an opportunity to look at different lines, familiarize yourself with the course, to make sure there's nothing on it that's gonna jump out and get you, and to know like where there might be a climb where you might have to shift through your gears really fast, or like you might come around a corner and there's like a log that you have to get up and over. Because Enduro is only downhill, all of these little things that might lose you like 10 to 15 seconds, that could be the difference between first and 10th place. So that's why pre-riding is hugely important.
You also want to use pre-riding to figure out your plan for different sections. You may encounter features that you just don't feel comfortable doing. And usually there's a go-around or a beeline that'll allow you to go around that feature. But occasionally it's a mandatory feature. And if that's the case, you figure out how you want to get down it or around it. And that it might involve like lowering your bike down and jumping down and then hopping back on your bike. But you want to have that planned beforehand so that when you get that feature in the race, you're not like, oh my gosh, what do I do here? You're like, I know what I'm going to do. I have my plan. Execute, keep going.
Some people might go to Enduro race, they might expect to be able to ride everything, and then, you know, you might get really upset if there's something that's out of your skill level. And that is just a waste of energy. There will always be things that are pushing your skill level. And there's really no shame in walking down something, especially if that's your plan from the get-go. It's usually a lot better to commit to walking a feature, go into it fast, jump off your bike, run through it, jump back on your bike. What is very slow is getting bogged down in the middle of something, having to get off really awkwardly, maybe being stuck in your pedals, like maybe not being able to, and then having to walk it at that point. No shame in not being able to ride something, just
make a plan,
accept that, make a plan, and stick to the plan. Our final tip, which is possibly the most important, so hopefully you guys have stuck around. When it comes to Enduro racing, crashing is really slow. We know a lot of people who have gone into their first Enduro race, they got super hyped up, were super excited, and then did a lot of crashing right off the bat.
It's much better to back it down 5 or 10% and be like, I can ride smooth, I can ride in control, and I can avoid crashing. I actually did the math one time.
Such a nerd.
I am such a nerd. One crash going 10% faster will lose you more time than just if you'd gone 10% slower. So you should just always just back it down a little bit so you can ride consistently, you can ride in control, and that's always going to be faster than crashing.
It takes a really long time for enduro racing to kind of dial in that like optimal level of arousal where you're like stoked and aggressive and going fast and not crashing. So I would suggest for a first time racer that you err on the side of caution, because that will give you a better experience overall. And if you finish the day and your results aren't what you wanted, you know, you'll know that you have a little bit more in the tank and you can try to push that level a little bit more the next time. Make sure you are subscribed, because next week we are going to be doing a video all about the gear and bike and just general kit that we use for enduro racing. So if that's out, it'll be there. If not, it's coming next week. So hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit all the things. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this video helped you be a little bit more awesome.